get on with our next candidate. Our next candidate is running for a federal office. It's a U.S. representative. Not state, but a U.S. representative. Right now, what's that guy's name that's in there now? Anybody know? Yarmouth? Yeah, is that close? That's pretty close
enough.
No, John Yarmouth. John has literally rolled in there repeatedly every 2 years, back again. And I really, at first, I thought that he and Nancy Pelosi were related. I still think they are, although she's from California. But we need somebody that doesn't just go down the party line constantly and has nothing. They stand up for themselves for Kentucky. And that's what I've seen. And Harold Bratcher, Mr. Bratcher, I've known about Harold for a long time, but really not got to know him like I have when he put himself up to run. Harold is a small business owner here in Louisville. Harold, how many employees you got?
About 10.
10 employees?
I employ 8 here and 2 in South Carolina.
Right. I was going to say 5 to 10. That's a small business. He's being hit by some of the proposals on the national stage and the things that another candidate for another office is looking at, with the full backing of our U.S. representative. Harold has some great ideas. Some ideas are conservative, and they're well thought out, and it will make a difference truly in our lives with our families and your children and my grandchildren. Some of you may have grandchildren. But Harold Bratcher is the man for that change. Harold, come on forward, brother.
Bob, thank you very much for that great introduction. Couldn't have done it better myself. For any of you in here that may not know who I am, my name's Harold Bratcher. I am running for Congress against John Yarmouth. What's brought me to this point in my life was I'm sick and tired of the political leaders in our country being more concerned about other nations than our own. Every day we lose thousands of jobs to, countries of Mexico, China, Canada. Bob brought up that I own a small business. I own a small trucking company right here in Louisville. We do a lot of import-export business. About 70% of what we do comes into this country. And with 70% coming in, it doesn't leave a lot of jobs here. We only ship about 20% out of the country. And that's a big problem. And we have to do something about it. About a little over 20 years ago, there was a piece of legislation put into law called NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement. That agreement has cost this country a minimum of 1 million jobs. And I'm not talking about a minimum low entry-level jobs. I'm talking about 1 million union jobs, high-paying factory non-union jobs. And it's cost this country not only 1 million jobs or more, but it's cost 25% of our manufacturing sector in this nation. And when you take 25% of an industry out, how are we replacing it? Even our current administration has got us in another trade debacle, TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and all that's going to do is take even more jobs out of this country. And we have to stop it now, because if we don't, how many jobs are we going to have tomorrow? That's, one of the biggest reasons I've decided to run in this race is, trade, jobs, economy. And I didn't get on this subject lately because it's a big hot topic in the presidential race. I've been talking about NAFTA. If anybody knew me 20 years ago when this happened, I've been talking about it 20 years ago. My grandparents, the reason I know so much, or I don't know a lot about NAFTA, but the reason I know what I know about NAFTA is my grandparents used to own a trucking company. They used to haul a lot of furniture out of Santa Claus, Indiana, and they took it out to California. Well, right after NAFTA was passed, the company out in California started building a facility in Mexico. And their whole goal was to take them jobs from the United States into Mexico. So my grandfather went out there, met with the people because they wanted him to still take the loads into Mexico. And so they wanted to talk to his company about it. And then with all the regulations and the extra insurance, he just wasn't interested in going to Mexico. taking the product into Mexico for them. But that gentleman of that company told my grandfather that that piece of legislation cost 1,000 jobs in the United States. And I mean, you have to stop and think about it. One company leaving cost 1,000 jobs. We haven't replaced it. Our government likes to talk about our unemployment rate's about 5%. Well, that's not counting the people on unemployment that can't file for unemployment anymore. And it's not talking about people that are on entitlements or on the welfare system. I truly think some of the numbers that I've seen, if you figure it up, our unemployment's well over 25%. That is an unacceptable number in this country, and we have to do something now. Not to pick on Ford. Ford, employs a lot of friends of mine, and they're a great company to work for. From what I understand, they pay pretty decent. But they just announced a few weeks ago they're going to take all small car production out of this country. How do you replace them jobs? I mean, you just can't keep taking. You have to replace. The way I see that we replace jobs, you're not going to bring them back. It's going to be hard-pressed to bring these jobs back. But if we can cut taxes, not just at the corporate level, but across the board, we can, in turn, get small businesses like my business, where I'm not paying as much in taxes as I am. Maybe I can hire another person or, expand, be able to afford to expand. And by expanding, by cutting taxes and then turn around and reinvesting my own money back into my company, I can create more jobs. And when I create jobs, even though we cut taxes, we can in turn have more taxes because we created more jobs. So it's one of them systems. By cutting the money here, taking a little bit out of the government's pocket, we're going to create more taxes in the long term. And that's what we need to do. I mean, and plus, we're all middle income people in this room. If you had a couple more dollars in your pocket, you might be able to afford to take your kids on vacation, might be able to put new tires on the car, might be able to buy a new house. But, right now, the way it is, I mean, we pay, 25, 28% of your income in taxes. It'd be more like 15%, 10%. That's where I really feel the focus needs to be is taxes. We were talking about the Second Amendment earlier. I am a constitutional conservative. I do support the Constitution of this country. I do support the Second Amendment. I tell you, one of the reasons we live in a free country is because we're probably have the most single gun owners in our country as any other country. And that's why I really feel that we haven't been attacked by a country like China or Russia, because if they come in and they get past our military, we have the biggest, private military in the world, with the single, with everybody with firearms. And I have became a gun enthusiast this past year. I think firearms, if you're vetted, do properly background checks, it is good. A gun does not hurt anybody. It's the individual that has the gun in their hand. And too many people want to take the good gun owners and put them in with the bad gun owners. We were talking about, Mayor Fisher and his plans. Chicago is one of the biggest cities in the nation and have the highest gun crime. They have some of the toughest gun laws, but it's not working there, so how's it going to work here? Taking the guns out of law-abiding citizens is not the answer. It hasn't been proven anywhere in the United States to work, so how will it work here in Louisville? So, that's where my stance is on the Second Amendment. Healthcare is a big topic. We're talking about more and more insurance companies today are getting out of the Affordable Care Act. It was a piece of legislation that was sold to us, and we were told we were going to be able to keep our insurance, keep our providers, our healthcare costs were going to stay low. Well, I don't know if anybody else has felt the crunch, but since the ACA has been enacted, my health insurance has probably almost doubled. And I was on a radio program the other night with Jim Coyle on Resistance Radio, 970 AM The Answer. Played a clip with my opponent on it when he was asked at this town hall, how are we going to pay for the Affordable Care Act? He flat out said he didn't know. Well, I can tell you how we're going to pay for it. Taxes. That's what you get. Any program the government has to be funded through taxes. That's the only way you can pay for it. I want a smaller government with less taxes. My opponent also said, we all heard of President Obama when we were going around, and he was going around trying to sell us on the ACA. He told us that we were going to be able to keep our health care plans, keep everything. Well, it turned out we're not. We're being cut off every day. And my opponent, again, on another radio program, admitted that that was a lie. So, our current representative in Congress in this, in the 3rd District, has lied to us numerous times to stay elected. What I vow to everybody, that I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sell you a program that's not worth buying. If it's not good, I'm going to be upfront and honest. I'm not going to sit and tell you I don't know how to pay for it, because either we're going to come up with a way to pay for it when we're trying to pass legislation, or we're going to tell you the only way to pay for it is to raise taxes. And I don't want to raise taxes. And, we need to come up with a different way. We need to balance our budget in this country. We have gone many years without a balanced budget. I know whenever I go to buy something, I have to ask my wife for permission. I will admit that, And I have to say, honey, can I buy a new car? And she'll tell me yes or no. We need to do that in government. We need transparency in government. We need smaller government. Senator Rand Paul made a quote that I love. He said, we need a government so small we can barely see it. And that's true. We have so much government intrusion in our lives, and we need to get the government out. I'm in the transportation business, like I said. They're trying to put electronic logging devices in the truck. That's a great thing. It's less paperwork, go straight to a computer. That's great. But that's a piece of equipment. If I want to drive down the street out with that logging device in my truck that I own, that I work for, I have to sign into a computer to be able to drive a piece of equipment I own. I disagree with that. If I'm under dispatch or working under a load, I have no problem signing into the computer. But the government should not be able to track every little thing that I do. It's, in my opinion, it's unconstitutional. And we need more people that's going to stand up for us. And that's what I plan to do. This race this year is all about representation. It's who's best fit to represent us, in Washington or in the state. And, my opponent's been in office for 10 years. And in 10 years, I don't really know what he's done. I've met thousands of people in this district, especially when I was out at the state fair. And, I've talked to him, and people sit and tell you he's done nothing. All he's done, honestly, is his wealth has grown at least 4 times while he's in Washington. That I have a problem with. He is in the healthcare business, and you can go on his family's healthcare website. It's called Almost Family. And if you would have invested $10,000 in January of 2005, and he took office in 2007, mind you, but in almost the same time, in June of 2016, that $10,000 investment's worth $250,000. So is that somebody looking out for you or looking out for themselves? You ask me, that somebody's looking out for themselves. When that company can grow almost a whole span of his tenure in Congress, to grow that much is just unprecedented. If you went on that company's market cap, I don't know much about stocks, but if you go on their website and check out their market cap, in 2014, when the ACA took full effect, that company was worth $200 million on their market cap. Or the market caps, not their worth, but the market cap. About 2 months ago, when I looked at their stock, that same market cap in 2 years went from $200 million to $400 million. And, my opponent was able to vote on healthcare legislation. He helped write healthcare. And he likes to say that, the legislation that he was voting on and creating was harmful to his family's business. Well, if doubling their market cap in 2 years is harmful, I'd hate to see what was really good for them, because I would take a $200 million, growth in 2 years, or I would take $250,000 over a 10-year span. And over that 10 years, let me get back to that. That stock outperformed the Dow, the NASDAQ, the S&P, GE, Kindred Healthcare. The closest company on there that they had put on this on their website was LHC Healthcare. Under that same 10-year span, LHC, if you would invest in that same $10,000, that stock would be worth $60,000. It was a little over $60,000. That's a great investment. That's something that's admirable. $60,000 over 10 years, I could take it. But on Almost Family, it was $250,000. I mean, there's a problem. My opponent also talks about Congress is broken. This is why it's broken. Everybody's concerned about a D or an R. That's why we don't have a balanced budget. That's why we have all this, gridlock in Washington. With me going to Washington, I'm willing to meet in the middle. In my opinion, you have to be willing to work with each other, because if you're not willing to work together, you're part of the problem, not part of the solution. And our relationships in life, either be at home, our marriages, or relationships, or at work, all have to have a give and take. You give a little over here to get a little over there. And that's what we got to do. That's what I plan on doing in Washington. Being a representative that's going to fight for this district, help bring jobs back to Louisville, help create new jobs, help reinvest any money we can into small businesses, because that's what grows our economy. We have a gentleman right over here, Don. He works for a small business right across the street, over here, Guns Inc. And I'm sure, it's created a few jobs, and it's helping our economy. And that's what we got to do. If we can reinvest in small business, if you take a loan like Ford, or not Ford, but GE got a loan a few years ago from the government. I can't remember how many millions or billions of dollars it was, but if you took $100 million and if the government had $100 million to hand out, if you took $100 million and invested into 100 small businesses and gave them all $1 million apiece, those small businesses would create more jobs than one huge business. And that's where we have to put our resources, is back into small business, because all the huge corporations are leaving every day. Does anybody have any questions? Yes. Yes, sir.
I'd like to know what you say on the influx of refugees, aka migrants.
We have millions of homeless people on our streets, even homeless veterans that have freely went and fought for this country. And when we allow them to go homeless and sleep on our streets, and then the government wants to bring in people from other countries, I have a problem. I grew up out here in Valley Station, like Mike. I went to Valley High School. When I was raised by a single mother, I was the oldest of 4 kids, but I was taught you take care of your home first, and then if there's anything left over, you help your neighbor, your friend. That's the way I was taught. I understand these refugees need help. Out of all these refugees, there's a group of great people that just need help. They're in a bad spot in the world, and they need some help. But let's send them some aid. We do send them aid, but before we bring them here, let's take care of them over there. I have a problem when, like I said, homeless men and women go to sleep every night, out on the streets without a house. And then we bring people in, give them, food stamps, place to live, help them get jobs. We give employers tax credits to hire them. That's a problem. If we're going to do all that for those people, why can't we do that for the people that we already have in this country? I'm all about helping people, but I also want to take care of those at home first. There's a lot of different ways you go. Like, we're just talking about the heroin issue, the heroin epidemic. The one way I feel that we fix that is secure the borders, because all the contraband comes into this country that way. I love the people. I love people coming to this country. I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about what's coming into this country, and we have to protect the borders. I'm running for this office. It's too late for me and you. I'm running for your daughter, Mike's son over here. I'm trying to help the next generation. My grandkids, great-grandkids, great-great-grandkids need a place to call home. There's a lot of turmoil in the world, and our current leadership in this country has put us there. And it's time that we stand up and fight them there, leave everybody over there, and take care of the people here. If you don't have none, that's good. What you got, Don?
So the small business as well, sole proprietor generally the only sole employee is one unemployed issue. So I don't want anybody to buy insurance for me. I don't want anybody to buy insurance for me. But like you, my insurance premiums are compliant for benefits go down. What's the answer? Is it still full repeal because they're driving so many insurance companies out? If you repeal it, the only answer it seems like is what we were aiming for in the first place, which is single payer.
Okay.
No,
I tell you where I think the insurance epidemic, where the big problem lies, and I could be wrong on this. I'm not an insurance agent, but it's just my personal opinion on it. We need to lift the restrictions and allow insurance companies to sell, in states. It's like Kentucky. Years ago, I used to have an insurance company. Kentucky's horrible. Honestly, it's horrible, Mike. When it comes to insurance, horrible, man. But there used to be an insurance company in Kentucky called Fortis. Best insurance of my life ever had. By far, the hands down best insurance I ever had. Okay, when Kentucky changed some laws got changed. Well, Fortis bailed. They wouldn't write business in Kentucky anymore. And that's the problem. It's all the restrictions. If you lift restrictions, and what it does is it allows competition. What happens with competition? Prices go down. It's like every business that opens, it has competition, and it's going to drive prices down till the market stabilizes. When I talk about cutting corporate taxes, if you cut the corporate taxes, they can be more competitive on the global market. I mean, with me being in the import-export business, I talk to a lot of companies, every day, and that's another reason they leave is because we're so heavily taxed, and it hurts. And it's restrictions, regulations. Kentucky, Governor Bevin's trying to do a lot of great things, that red tape reduction they've been talking about. And, some regulations are great. We need to make sure, the EPA is great on some things. We need to make sure our drinking water's safe. We need to make sure that, companies aren't out here putting toxic chemicals in the air. So we need regulations, but we don't need all these other regulations. A lot of people don't realize, but, being in the transportation business, every semi you see going up and down the highway, as some people's always heard, truckers think they own the road. And I know we don't own the road, but I'll tell you, it is one of the most regulated industries out there. You got to pay $550 for every truck you own every year for a highway usage tax fee. You pay basically for every mile that you drive up and down the highway. Okay? Then if you go buy your license plate for your car, you can drive in any state. You can go to Canada, you can go to Mexico. You can ship your car to Hawaii and still drive in Hawaii and you're perfectly fine. But in a semi, you can only drive your vehicle in the states that you're licensed, because they charge you for every single state. That's what I'm telling you. It's regulation. That's why Kentucky, I was talking about this with some other people. Kentucky should have zero unemployment. We should have more warehousing jobs, more manufacturing jobs, more logistic jobs than anybody, because you can be 650 miles from Kentucky. It's what you're legally allowed to drive in a tractor trailer a day. You can be almost anywhere in a day's drive from here. You can't be in a day's drive from Columbus, Ohio. You can go north, but you can't go south. Kentucky, we can go north and south. If we can't hit you in a day, it's a day and a quarter, day and a half. Where if you're in Columbus, Ohio, it's 2 days, to go south, 2 days to go west, And we should have more jobs, and hopefully Mike gets in there, gets some more of this red tape reduction, figure our tax code out in Kentucky, because Kentucky has some of the worst taxes when it comes to business. Okay, talking about small business. I started my small business. I've been in transportation business all my life. I went out as an owner-operator back around 2000. Right at 4 years ago, be 4 years this December. What I'm a business agent for a company called Carolina National, which means I own a franchise of their company. I own the rights to Carolina. So on the door it says Carolina National. I don't own Carolina National, but I own the rights. It's like owning a McDonald's, So that's what I do. I had computer and business equipment before I LLC'd my company. Everybody these days got computers at home, fax machines at home. Everybody's house is an office. You can do anything out of your home now. But the city, Shane, running for Metro Council back there, the city charges you a business property tax. Okay? Which I'm fine with. But I shouldn't pay it on equipment that I own before I started my business. Just because I use it in my business doesn't mean I should have to pay taxes. I paid taxes when I bought it. Now when I incorporate it into my business, I already paid taxes on it. I don't get a tax break from it because I already owned it. But now I pay business property tax to the city of Louisville. That is an issue. It's not a federal issue what I'm running on, but I'm just talking about regulations and different things that has affected my business. But in talking about the health care back on my business, fortunately for me, I don't have to pay health care to my employees. Most of my employees are contractors, owner-operators, truck drivers. The two people I employ in South Carolina as part of Carolina National, their corporate office. They work for my office up there, doing all the paperwork, payroll, and all that because I don't have in-house. I just have, in my office, I have me, then I have another lady that helps dispatch. She's more clerical than dispatches. She dispatches because I tell her where to, tell them to go. But and I also have a couple part-time people that come in and help scan paperwork. But fortunately, I don't have to get into the healthcare thing. My wife, she's got a good job, and I ride on her insurance. But I can tell you, it's been horrible. My wife, she gets paid twice a month, and our insurance, has steadily climbed every year. And the premiums are going up, but the coverage is coming down. It's a problem. I went and got a CAT scan a few years back. It cost me, I think it was around $1,200 or $1,500 at the hospital. Then after my procedure, I had to go get another CAT scan. I went to one of these little strip mall outlets, same CAT scan, same film, same, tech that done, basically, it was $400. There's a problem in healthcare. Honestly, you can't charge $1,200 or $1,500 here and $400 here. There has to be a common ground. And that's another reason why our premiums are so high, because insurance companies have to account for that. My son, we had his arm x-ray, took him over here, doctor's office over here on by Southwest Hospital, or the old Southwest Hospital. Their x-ray machine was down or broken or something. We took him across the street, there's Southwest Hospital, the emergency room, and I think the x-rays were like $400. That's just crazy. But that's where we're at in healthcare. But if we lift a restriction and allow other insurance companies to sell, just like, when you go buy a car, you go up and down Dixie. There's 15 car lots on Dixie Highway, and you're looking for the best deal. There's 15, or more than that, but say there's 30 gun stores in town. If you're going to go to the one that's going to give you the best deal, what you do, And the same way should be with our health care. It should be with that, free enterprise is great, but, when I talk free enterprise, now I'm talking, we're sending jobs out of the country. So that's a problem. So, because that's free enterprise, because now they're making it cheaper. But, there's got to be, a balance. A trade is originally set up for, it's like China, number one producer of rice, number one consumer of rice. So, Kentucky's number one consumer in bourbon. Okay? So, yeah, we want to ship bourbon to there and, say, a couple of truckloads of bourbon, we want a couple of truckloads of rice. You balance it out. Whatever you're good at, whatever you can make, whatever they can make, you offset it. But our trade is just it's so upside down. They talk about on this election cycle, and a lot of people are not getting the message, and they don't realize it. We talk about schools. Schools are so upside down. I got 2 kids in college. My son goes to U of L, lives at home. It's like over $10,000 a year. He lives at home. My daughter, she goes down to Lindsey Wilson. Fortunately for her, she got a couple good scholarships. And so she cost us like a little less than $5,000 for the whole year and lives there, and that's room, board, the meal plan and everything. So, but she worked her butt off, got scholarships. My son was too lazy. He didn't want scholarships. He just wanted to go out and hang out with his buddies, which I get it. I was a guy. I done the same thing. So I can't fault him for it, but, I wish he would, applied himself a little more. But, he's paying for it now, and he knows it. And, there's a lot of good companies in town that, offer journeyman programs and stuff. One of my son's friends is, an electrician program. We got another one in an HVAC program. So there is things out there you can do, to offset it. And not everybody is going to go to college, like Mike said. And, and when I was going to school, and Mike can remember because we're about the same age, they used to have a vocational training. And back then, a lot of girls and boys, or men and women, when they left high school, they were more trained. I knew girls, they would go to beautician school, through vocational school. When they get out, they take their state board exams. Now they're cutting hair. They don't have that now. Or if they have it, you're going to pay $20,000, $30,000. They used to train you that in high school, if you chose to do it. We need to get back to it. We need to get back to better schools, holding teachers accountable. Some teachers, they're just there for a paycheck. I get it. We're all going to work for a paycheck. But a teaching job is a little different. That's something you have to have a passion for. When you're sitting there teaching, the next generation, you're there to teach them. And that's what you should do. Anything else? Yeah? No. Go ahead. I'm messing with you.
Back to the health insurance.
Uh-huh.
Do you think that cost disparity causing the premium changes due to the rising cost of malpractice insurance, the loss of small home offices?
Oh, no, that's a big part of healthcare. It's the malpractice insurance. I was talking to some doctors a month or so ago, and, they're hoping that we flip the house so they can go to, the legislative body in Frankfurt to fight for better, malpractice, insurance and regulations. That hurts everything. It's like this. If you watch TV between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m., all you see is lawyers on there. Come see me. I'll get you thousands, waving money. Now you see these billboard signs all up and down, the highway, waving cash, come see me. That's the problem. We need tort reform. You shouldn't be able to sue somebody. What happens when you have an accident? You should be able to, have a fender bender. If, you back into my car, it's a fender bender, okay? We get the insurance, we pay it, take care of it. Now what happens is that fender bender turns into a $65,000 claim because, oh, my neck's hurt, because everybody's looking for a payday. The problem is, and I'm going to tell you, I'm part of the problem. I will promise you this. We're raising a generation of kids that aren't wanting to work because we gave them too much when they were young, okay? I will tell you that. I have worked 6-7 days a week, 16, 18 hours a day to make it better for my kids. When I grew up, like I said earlier, single mother, 4 kids. I was the oldest. I was stuck at home watching kids, cooking, cleaning, getting them off the bus, helping my mother out. She's a single mother. I, helped her out. I'd done everything I could to make sure my kids didn't have to do that. That was a problem. My kids don't have many chores. And then when they do have chores, you got to get in there and clean your room. It's that type of thing. So you have to do, I wish I would have done a little better for my kids, honestly. I wish I would have gave them, but you always try to make it easier on your kids, right? I mean, that's, we all try to do that. And that's part of the problem. We've made it too easy for some. And now they want to take advantage of the system. The system makes it so easy today to live off of it. And it's hard for people that, really are out there trying because it's just, they make it too easy. One thing you don't see on TV talking about lawyers, you don't see a lot of hard liquor commercials. You see a few now, but for years you never seen hard liquor. That was an agreement that they had where they wouldn't, to keep, I forgot exactly what the liquor companies were getting out of it, but they made a deal where they wouldn't have all these commercials on promoting that brand to keep people off the hard liquor, is what they done. And I guess that expired because now you see the Crown Royal commercials and all that, but that's something they changed. But that was a deal they done, because they weren't promoting it. But that just shows you that's the problem with lawyers. Lawyers, that's where I was going. Lawyers shouldn't be on TV promising you something you couldn't get. And if you got a lawyer that's telling you that I can take you to this doctor, I can take you to this chiropractor, I can take you, he's part of the problem. That's why your car insurance is so high. That's why medical insurance is so high. That's why malpractice insurance is so high. What we need is to be able to sue these attorneys for lying to us and getting us in situations that we don't need to be in. Because that really, it's not politicians that's the problem, it's lawyers. Unfortunately, there's a lot of lawyers that turn into politicians, and they put loopholes in all the legislation so their buddies can find a way to get it out of it. That's my personal opinion. I'm not a politician, never ran for office before. I'm just a guy sick and tired of politicians and trying to do something about it. I don't have all the answers, but I can tell you whatever answer I don't have, I will find it out for you. And if I am elected, we're going to have the strongest constituent services that this district's ever seen. My office will be accessible to anybody all the time, because that's the way it should be. Politicians are a public servant. They work for the people, and that's what a lot of politicians forget day in and day out is who they work for. They don't work for themselves. They work for you or me in that case. Anything else? Yes, go ahead. You got all the questions. Come on. You need to move up here so we get a little closer.
So I do work in the basic sciences. I'm a microbiologist.
Okay.
My work is dependent right now on NIH funding.
Okay.
NIH funding is still funding an all-time low. Less than 18% of all grants coming in are being funded. It's still sequestered level. This we're still operating at. And then, so important research isn't getting funding yet. Obama just promised $1 billion to Zika virus research. And Zika virus, well, yes, it's a growing problem. Very rarely causes death. Very rarely causes the small heads that you see on the TV. 30,000 people a year die on average in the U.S. from the flu. Malaria is a huge problem. We're seeing a lot of other diseases coming here from all the refugees.
I agree.
They don't have to be vaccinated.
Right.
They don't have to show proof of vaccines. I'm not saying vaccines are the answer, but there's more important research. What do you think should be prioritized for anything?
Well, I can tell you I'm not in the medical field, but that would be something I would have to get with, people in that field to tell you which ones I feel that are, more of a priority than others, because, I don't really know. But we need to be protected. And, that's another problem I have with the refugees and stuff coming in is because they're not vaccinated. We don't know. I saw a thing on the computer the other day. I don't know if it was a spoof somebody put up there or something, but they said in one thing up north somewhere that all these refugees had TB. I don't know if that's true or not. But Nebraska. I've seen it, but you see things on the internet, and I hate to quote the internet because you got to consider the sources. But that is a problem. You can't have people come bringing more disease into this country. The reason we don't have a lot of the diseases is because we're a cleaner country than a lot of others. No offense to them. It's just that we have the proper plumbing, the sewage and everything. And that's why you can make things in other countries a lot cheaper, because there was one country, I think in India, or one river in India was their main source of drinking water, but they polluted it so much that now the water's not even drinkable, but they're still drinking it, but it's causing, these cancers and tumors and stuff. Because they don't care. They're more concerned about making an actual $1, than they are, over their lives. And that's why I said some regulations are great. It protects us. But some other regulations hurt us. They cut jobs. They cause jobs to leave. And, so we have to, find a balance. But we do need funding. If there is something more important that is more life-threatening, or, that could have the greater good for all, then that's what we need to be funding our money at. But, I couldn't sit here and tell you which one I think is a priority. I think anything that is research on the, for the human nature or human beings is a priority. But, Zika, it's not that big, of a thing considered, other issues, but, we just have to pick and choose. We need a panel of doctors that, or, scientists that say this is, a higher priority or has a better chance of coming up with a cure or, something than others.
With the FDA regulations right now, on average, by the time scientists in the lab, not working on any patients, find a target that could be used for treatment, you're looking at 10 years, $1 million before you get to.
We need to cut some of that. I mean, we really do. The trial, from trial to the public, needs to go quicker. It really does. Because it's like this. I'll tell you, if I had something wrong with me, you told me I can go over here to the gas station, get a gallon of gas and drink it, and it would save my life, or it may not, I'm going to try it. Because we only have one life to live. So anything they can tell me that's, going to prolong my one life, I'm going to try it. And that's what we need to do. It's like, you were talking about earlier, hemp, okay? Industrial hemp's great. There is some studies that, medical marijuana, talking about drugs and stuff, could help. I'm not sold on medical marijuana, but I'm interested in the research, okay? But I've seen some studies that it can cut out some of these more powerful drugs. And that's where we need to look at, talking about research and that. And, we need to look at something that's more cost effective. Your prescriptions are going to be cheaper. And that's where we need to go. We waste billions of dollars every year. We waste them. And we need to start focusing our resources, our hard-earned tax dollars, to where it needs to be. And, where it's at now is just basically not where it should be. Our current leadership over the last 8 years, I'm not blaming everything on them, but they have allocated our resources in a different direction. Has hurt, our country, with research, because they, like I said, they want to do certain research on other programs. It's not as really a necessity as others. But what they should have been doing was focusing on protecting the people of this country. So, anything else? Well, that's it. You got a question back here? Okay, you're good. See y'all later. Thanks for coming.